Okay, good morning everyone, and welcome to Grand Final Day of the Melanesian School Debating Competition. My name is Ben Bahane. I'm the Communications Director for the Pacific Institute of Public Policy, and this week it's been my great honour to chair the debate. The Pacific Institute of Public Policy is the region's leading think tank, and we exist to stimulate and support informed policy debate in Pacific Island countries. I can think of no better way to sharpen the minds of our young people than by getting them engaged through debate on the key policy issues of our time. The purpose of these debates is to build confidence in public speaking and critical thinking for our students as they tackle the big issues, and I have no doubt that I'm looking at some of the future leaders of our region here in the room. This is the second annual Melanesian School Debating Competition. Last year was won by Papua New Guinea, but unfortunately they haven't come this year, which is why we've created a couple of all-star teams to take their place, including the USP all-star team, who'll be with us this morning. I thank them for stepping in late in the program to give this competition some more diversity and punch. We would like to thank our sponsors, Vanuatu Coconut and Copra Exports, who've sponsored the overall competition Best Speaker Prize, and also to ASCO Motors for their use of their community bus. Thanks to the Vanuatu National Provident Fund for the free use of their boardroom here. And thanks also to Vanuatu's Ministry of Education and Training for their ongoing support. They've been one of our key partners for this debate. And I'd also like to thank Bjorn Sugari from the Office of the Government's Chief Information Officer, who's been helping us record these debates and help us with the live streaming. I'd also like to acknowledge some special guests who are in the room here this morning. David Lubser, who's the Vanuatu Country Manager for SPREP. Joel Jonas from New Zealand Aid. And Fremdom Shadrach, who's the team leader for the AusAid TVET program. Thanks very much for being here. I'd like to now ask our teams to come on up while I'm doing the introduction. We might get them to take their places. So that's the USP All-Star team and the Fiji team. And I might ask our adjudicators to come and take their places too for the first round. For those interested to follow our live streaming, please go to our Facebook page, which has been created, and that is the Melanesian School Debate page on Facebook. You'll find a couple of links there, and from there we can you'll be able to cover the debate. Welcome on board. I'm just going to quickly introduce our two teams. Fiji will be speaking for the motion. We have Shail Chand, Epeli Korovuki, and Patrick Lau. Give them a big hand. And the University of South Pacific All-Star team, we have Anna Sarasets, Juliet Kaukare, and Jesse Longo-Lakiba. Welcome, everyone. Okay, I might quickly go through the rules of the debate since it's the grand final day, just so everybody has that firmly in their mind. The rules for this debate are aligned with those of the Australasian Debate Guide. Students will have 6 minutes to present their case, with our timekeeper holding up a card at the halfway mark, followed by a card when the speaker has 1 minute left, and then a final 10-second card at which the student must promptly wrap up their presentation. Make sure to rebut, engage with your audience, and audience, please be respectful to our speakers, and we'd ask that there are no disruptions while they're making their case. I might ask you all to turn your mobile phones to silent as well. We will be taking an informal vote from the audience as well, because we'd like to know your opinion of the motion at the start. And then we'll see how the teams have convinced you with another vote at the end. Again, this is not taken into consideration by the judges, so teams, don't be disheartened by the first vote. It's your chance to change people's minds by the end of the debate. You'll find voting cards on your seats, and I'm going to read out the motion, which I'll then ask you to vote on initially. Okay, today's motion, this morning's motion for the first debate, is that Melanesian countries should forge stronger ties with Asian neighbours. I'll say it again, that Melanesian countries should forge closer ties with Asian neighbours. Have a quick think, and please raise one of the voting cards so that we can take an initial audience vote, and we'll do the same at the end to see if our minds have been changed. So if you could all pick up your cards. I've said the motion, and we're going to have a quick count of hands. Okay, I can see some of the teams have their work cut out for them. For yes votes, we have 60, and for no, we have 11. So that seems like a pretty big difference. We'll be interesting to see whether that changes through the course of the debate. Okay, I'd now like to introduce our esteemed adjudicators for this debate. We have Mr. Francis Herman, who's the Program Manager for PACMAS. Welcome, Francis. We have Mr. Ralph Regenvanu, who's a Member of Parliament and former Minister. Welcome. We have Mr. Wilson Toyer, who's the CEO for Transparency International. Welcome. And we have Ms. Linus Karianga, who's the Legal Counsel for the Reserve Bank of Vanuatu. Thanks to our adjudicators. Okay, let's start. I'd now like to ask the first speaker for the affirmative team, which is Fiji, to come up and begin the debate.
The respected chairperson, the adjudicators, our fellow opposing team, and dear audience, a very good morning to you all. Today, I stand before you to argue on the motion, Melanesian countries should forge stronger ties with Asian neighbors. And my team, ladies and gentlemen, being on the affirmative side, strongly support this motion. Before moving further, dear audience, let me clearly define some of the key terms of this motion. Firstly, the term forge. According to dictionary.com, it means to move ahead with effectiveness or to devise an agreement or understanding. The second term to note is tie. Again, in dictionary.com, this word is defined as to bind, fasten, or draw together closely. A small four-letter word, but with a lot of power in it. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, the Asian neighbors. So, who are our Asian neighbors? They are the nations that lie on the periphery of the Pacific Ocean, more specifically, the West and the North. Thus, having looked at the key terms, let me, ladies and gentlemen, take you to my team. I, Shail, who as the first speaker, will be taking you to the economic benefits, more specifically, trade and investment and diplomatic relationships. Our second speaker, Ibeli, will elaborate on aid and development and human resource development. Finally, the third speaker, Patrick, will highlight on the availability of educational opportunities. So, dear audience, that being the structure of our team, I shall proceed with my argument. Foremost, ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you that the relationship between the Asia and the Melanesia is not a new concept. These relations and opportunities have been there for the last 5 or 6 decades. And in fact, in the recent times, it has grown at a faster pace. And in some areas, such as trade and investment, there has been a substantial and rapid growth, more so than with our traditional partners like Australia and New Zealand. Ladies and gentlemen, China is recognized as one of Vanuatu's major development partners. In addition to that, India. India is one of Vanuatu's fifth largest export destination with 5.5 million US dollars worth of goods sent in the year 2013 to 2014. And this, in fact, is an increase from 5.37 million US dollars in the previous year. Ladies and gentlemen, can you imagine the constrained economies of the Melanesia had we not forged our relations with these Asian neighbors? Moving on, dear audience, according to the Lowly Institute for International Policy, China is the principal export destination for the Solomon Islands, with goods worth of $576 million exported. Similarly, Solomons also depend on its imports from Asia, that is Singapore, China, and Malaysia. And how about one of China's largest investment project of 1.6 billion US this joint an estimated life of 20 years. This mine will be generating substantial cash flow. And mind you, ladies and gentlemen, this is a joint venture between the PNG government, the landowners, and the Chinese entities. So with up to 364,440 tons of nickel and 3,521 tons of cobalt being sold by the end of 2014, can you imagine the benefits to the nation? My dear listeners, this list is not exhaustive. This, as we say, is just the tip of the iceberg. Thus, the potential for trade and investment between Melanesia and our Asian neighbors is enormous. And it is up to us to forge our relations with them to reap the advantages. After all, if a horse is thirsty, it is the horse that needs to go to the river to quench its thirst, not the river coming to the horse. With the look north policy of Fiji, it has forged ahead to engage with Asia. Fiji became the first Pacific Island country. Let me say that again. Fiji became the first Pacific Island country to open a consulate in North Korea. It has also promoted investment and trade between the two countries, thus becoming another market for Fiji's sugar and textiles. Another important factor that affects our relationships with the Asian neighbors is the diplomatic relations. Ladies and gentlemen, this refers to a relationship between two countries in which they send diplomats to work in each other's countries. And this definition has been cited from the Macmillan Dictionary. The Melanesian countries have built strong bilateral relations with the Asian countries, and this fosters strong diplomatic relations because they do not interfere in the political affairs of the Melanesian countries. We, ladies and gentlemen, are very much aware of the political instability in the Melanesia. And every time some political upheaval takes place, our immediate neighbors, said to say, and you know who, are the first ones ready to withdraw its aid with other threats directed at the country. But have they ever considered who would be the ones feeling the direct impact of these withdrawals? It is not the corrupt ministers or the coup leaders. It is the general public, ladies and gentlemen. It is the poor, innocent people who become the victims. But ladies and gentlemen, these Asian countries do not interfere with the local politics. They believe in leaving it to solve the problems within the country. This is highly appreciated because imagine having a problem within your family. Is it not appropriate to solve the problem within the family? Or would you want your entire neighborhood to come and solve your problems for you? So ladies and gentlemen, our Asian neighbors do just that. They have respect for our Melanesian culture, our traditions, and our administrative systems. And therefore, they leave it to us to sort out our issues. My dear audience, thus, in conclusion, I would like to say that the Melanesian countries should forge ahead and strengthen our ties with the Asian neighbors. I repeat, should forge ahead and strengthen our ties with the Asian neighbors. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, respective adjudicators, students, and your hosting team, and the public as a whole. We are the negative team. We are opposed to the topic, which is Melanesian countries should forge stronger ties with Asian neighbors. We are of the idea that Melanesian countries should not forge stronger ties with Asian countries. Asian neighbors. The key terms are already defined by the opposing speaker. We just want to put a strong emphasis on the term stronger. If we say that Melanesian countries should forge ties with Asian countries, then it would be more flexible. But the word stronger there is too harsh, or we should say it is like them taking control of the whole nation. It's like they're being in control of the whole political and the economical system of the country. So we place our view much more on the term stronger there. We have three main points to discuss here to the topic. They are in with regards to political, economical, and the environmental exploitation and degradation of our natural resources. And I will be our first speaker, and I will be speaking mainly on the point of corruption, which is under politics. Our second speaker is Juliet, and she will be speaking on the economical crisis. And our third and last speaker is Jessie, and she will be speaking on the environmental exploitation or degradation, and she will also be summing up our points. Before I move on to our first point, I would like to make a brief rebuttal with regards to the affirmative team's first speaker. She mentioned something about the economical economical benefits that the Asian neighbors give us, and also the political interference of the Asian neighbors to us, to our system, to our governing systems. Firstly, with regards to the economical benefits. Okay. Firstly, I would like to refer to the article, the Regional Tactics, which is Melanesia's school debate. In that article, there is a statement there that says there is no such thing as free lunch. There are always strings attached when it comes to economics or trade. So, when saying that, I would say that if we accept the fact that the Asians are going to help us with what we don't have, for example, facilities, the supply of products, or manpower, or financial aid, then we are consenting to the fact that we have to give them something in return, because they have given us what we don't have. So at times we don't have financial or support or manpower to give to the Asian countries. So at times they come in and extract our natural resources, which will be discussed by our third speaker. With regards to the political interference, it is not true that the Asian countries are not interfering within our systems. Two examples in Vanuatu, which is the bribery case, and also in West Papua, which is with regards to the Indonesian authorities. Okay, now moving on to our first point. Our first point is the political crisis, and as mentioned, there are two types of examples here. One is the first one is with regards to Vanuatu. With regards to Vanuatu, we can see that this year, 2015, 14 entries were sent to jail due to bribery and corruption. With regards to the fact that Hong Kong has given or has funded the government with a huge sum of fund, which was held to unlawfully overturn the government by Moana. And let's not forget that Hong Kong is an Asian country. So With that, we can say that in using Hong Kong's fund, which helped Vanuatu, Moana used that fund to bribe other MPs to step forward with him to overturn the government, which is unlawful. So we cannot say that Asian countries do not interfere with the political system of our countries. Oh, and by the way, the appeal was dismissed last week, and so they're still in jail and serving their time there. And another example is the case of West Papua, where there is gross human abuse, which are placed on the West Papuan citizens placed by the Indonesian military since the year 1963 up to present day, and it is very hard for them to gain political independence because they accepted Indonesia to be to govern their political and economical system. Due to that, they suffer a lot of gross human rights abuse. So, and again, we cannot say that Asian neighbors do not interfere with our political systems. And to end with that, I would like to pose a question, and the question is, how much more will we suffer if we are to forge stronger ties with Asian neighbors? The word stronger there, is too harsh or too, or we should say, we are consenting to them to take control over all our resources and political and economical systems of our country. So therefore, Melanesian countries should not forge stronger ties with Asian neighbors. Thank you.
The chairman, adjudicators, fellow listeners, and debaters, a very good morning to you all. While each country looks at the problem set through different lenses, it is clear that all are concerned and want to take an active role in combating it, and so are our Asian neighbors, who are eager to help us Melanesian countries in terms of aid and development and human resource management. Ladies and gentlemen, according to a joint ADB and ADBI, the Pacific region can do more to tap opportunities arising from strong economic growth in Asia. It also stressed that Asia and the Melanesia have drawn closer over the past 2 decades, with trade expanding tenfold between 2000 and 2012. I repeat, tenfold. According to Solomon Star, dated 16th July 2015, Asia offers significant potential as a market for the Melanesian goods, as a source of investment and as a source of labor market. Moving on, dear audience, according to Chinese embassy website, China continues to strengthen human resource cooperation with Vanuatu. Beginning from year 2014, China will continue to provide 2,000 scholarships and help train technical professionals for Pacific Islands for the next 4 years. Also, to boost tourism industry in Vanuatu, ladies and gentlemen, Japan International Cooperation Agency, also known as JICA, is providing assistance to Vanuatu with a focus on infrastructure as a base for economic activities. The Asian countries are not coming to count Melanesia for our votes at the UN only, dear audience, but they are here to provide us with much needed aid for the development of our nation. For instance, the friendship between China and Vanuatu did not weaken, but was consolidated by Cyclone Pam. China sent 5 chartered planes to Vanuatu, which brought in disaster relief goods and medical personnel. This information was published in Chinese embassy website and is evident enough to show that Asian countries do care about the well-being of Melanesian countries. China is recognized as one of Vanuatu's major development partners, dear audience. It's a big world, so why not forge stronger ties with Asian nations to keep our options open and build our economies. Chinese aid to Fiji helps in public infrastructure development and other funding projects. China's aid is improving the status and employment rate of women, who, my dear friends, are the foundation of any country. After all, behind a man's success is a woman. Dear audience, from 2012 to 2013, All China Women's Federation donated 1,700 sewing machines to the Ministry of Women in Fiji. This aid not only provided women with the opportunity to work from welfare to workfare, but also raised their self-confidence and helped them make better choices in life through financial independence. In order to help Fijian government address sea level rise issues, China gave aid to build seawalls to protect villages. As a part of technical cooperation, ladies and gentlemen, China is sending experts to Fiji and providing technical guidance and assistance. When natural disasters strike, the same Chinese government offer emergency humanitarian aid to Fiji, dear friends. Human resource development cooperation between China and Fiji began with agricultural technology training and gradually spread to other sectors of the economy. Ladies and gentlemen, this aid enhances a country's ability to be independent and reducing the dependency on imports. Moving on, according to the Australian government DOFAT news, China is working closely with the health project in PNG. This work helps PNG get vaccination and healthcare facilities. According to Keep Your News PNG, dated 25th August 2015, PNG Prime Minister Peter O'Neill has thanked the Prime Minister of India for extending support in healthcare and education to Pacific Island countries. India, being an Asian country, not only helps PNG, but other Melanesian countries as well. For instance, India Pacific Island Countries Forum Summit held in Suva in Fiji in year 2014 announced the introduction of new programs to benefit Vanuatu in grant in aid $75,000 annually for community projects. And let me remind you, dear listeners, after Cyclone Pam, India gave assistance of $250,000 to Vanuatu. Imagine if that was changed to Vanuatu. You can call it the Pacific bonding if you like, dear friends. The multilateral ties between India and Fiji are set to get a new sparkle. India backed the election process in 2014, which signaled its willingness to partner with island nations. So, my dear listeners, as you can see, our Asian neighbors are helping us Melanesian countries greatly through providing aid and development assistance. And with this aid, we have grown economically. Before moving on to my conclusion, I would like to rebut on some points that was raised by my fellow opponents. Firstly, the Asians overpowering. Ladies and gentlemen, you see, the Asians have a joint venture. Yes, a joint venture. They don't take all its benefits, but it is us Melanesian countries who reap its benefits the most. Yes, natural resources may be depleting, but it is for our survival that we do this, ladies and gentlemen. If we don't, other countries will take advantage of our resource. We should be thankful that the Asians have considered our conditions. If you leave Mother Nature to its beauty, can you guarantee that the next generation will not deplete Mother Nature? After all, we only used to deplete this in a small area. It is the natural disaster that affects our resources, and you're still blaming human beings and not Mother Nature for being its own downfall? So you'd rather have human beings extract this and then we earn? You look at the bigger picture, but you'd rather have natural disasters to destroy our resources and what? Leave us with what? Nothing. The extraction of natural resources. If you own a treasure chest, and in your treasure chest, you have all the need to survive and earn, wouldn't you like to use that treasure chest and the riches to benefit yourself? Or will you leave it idle and leave it with Mother Nature? Likewise, if you need to earn, you have to make sacrifices. So extracting natural resources is only the short run. But look at the long run. You earn, you survive, in the next 20 years, boom, bam, you're flying with wealth and riches in cloud 9. I would also like to oppose that the point that was raised, that we should not strengthen our ties with Asia. Wake up, Melanesia. They have done a lot for us, from help to support in every aspect. And you're still stubborn to say that we do not want your ties. No, please don't. But we still want your help. Yeah, remember, you can't clap with only one hand. And if you're still wondering how to clap only with one hand, ponder how they would feel if they helped us, yet we push them away. So, my team, in conclusion, firmly believes that yes, Melanesian countries should forge stronger ties with Asian neighbors for peace, progress, and prosperity. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, especially particularly the educators and students as a whole, and even the public. I'm the second speaker to, my name is Juliet Bakare, and I'm the second speaker to the notion that Melanesian should not forge stronger ties with Asian neighbors. In other words, Melanesian should not forge or stronger ties with Asian neighbors. Just to emphasize on that, stronger. Just to emphasize on stronger. It is not the stronger, but there is a ties, but not as stronger with Asian neighbors. Okay. The reasons, the economic crisis here I mentioned is that I'm going to mention is specifically to competition in retail stores with the locals and the Chinese in particular, and more dependent on Asian. The more we depend on Asian countries to come and develop the countries, we do not. While our expertise, the trained people are there to utilize them in order to develop the countries. So that's the reason why we're depending on the other countries that are not utilizing our people or locals in the country. Before I can continue with my points, I just want to reply to the second speaker for the opposing team. Is it something, is it something or an example that the Chinese sent experts to Fiji? Yes, it is true, my colleague, they sent an expert to Fiji, but what about you as a young educator? You're an expert, and even the locals, they're all expert, trained people are there, so that you're training them, you're the locals, you're an expertise, you've got skills, knowledge to utilize your country instead of depending on other countries. Now moving on to my first point, competition in retail stores. This is economical crisis. This is typically refers to the Chinese trade stores that make it hard for the locals to compete in retail sectors. I'm going to explain this. When we make stronger ties with the Asian countries, we allow them to come to our countries and make businesses. They develop the countries, and when they develop the countries, they increase in retail shops. And while we, the locals, we less in our retail shops and wholesale. So it is quite hard for the locals to compete with the retail shops. I know you get the points, my friends from Vanuatu and other countries. This is a good example. I'm going to illustrate with a good living example in Vanuatu. In Vanuatu, there is a section, particular section in Port Phillip town, which is known as Chinatown, and probably this is well known to everyone. My colleagues, friends in Vanuatu, Chinatown. Why we call it Chinatown? It is because most of the businesses, shops, they belongs to the Chinese, operate by Chinese, and even with the expatriates. So when they operate with the expatriates, the Chinese, the competition is too high that the locals do not have the chance to compete with the Chinese shops. So I'm going to illustrate these examples with the other Melanesian countries. The Melanesian countries that I'm stated here is Solomon, and PNG. Solomon and PNG. Solomon, there is an article, evidence stated here, entitled China's Role in the Pacific Island by Shane Sang. In his article, he stated that Chinese are straight businesses in terms of exports, market for some Pacific Islands economies, such as Solomon, yes, there are 45% export from 2013 went to China, which is true. That is an example of how the Chinese the business operates by Chinese, and it has impact to the country economics, and I will explain the impacts later. And then another example is in PNG, stated in the same article that China has become the largest market for its timber export. Yes, that is another example of business run by the Chinese, yet it has impacts. So one of the impacts that I'm going to illustrate, particularly to Vanuatu, there is Chinatown. The operate businesses are done by the Chinese, and then they employ the locals. Yes, it is true. Going down to town now, we can see that there are more than locals in towns that the Chinese employ. So once they employ the locals, the locals are benefit from the salaries that the Chinese are giving. Yet the locals do not have access to commercial loans to able to invest their local businesses, retails, and wholesale shop. So another impact is the more we have shops, the more we have shop businesses run by the Chinese, people are getting easy access to get the food from the shops, and then they're being lazy to make cartons to produce products, healthy products, so that they can benefit the body, and then they're just depending on the local foods, buying the local foods, and then the products, especially the junk foods. But some of the junk foods, they are not good quality, and the quality is too poor. So the more they consume those junk foods, it costs the body. So causing the bodies in different types of disease. Disease can be in diabetes. So diabetes, when you end up in hospital, they can you might lose your life, or you might go in a permanent serious condition. So once you're in that permanent serious condition, you do not have the chance or privilege to develop or employ in the country and develop the country and even improve the standard of the country, economical country. Okay, finally, I just want to end my quote, in my presentation with a quote stated by Israel Moore, stated that it is better not to depend on what other country can do for you, but dream about what you can do best for your country. I repeat, dream about what you can do best for your country and not depending on other countries. You have your own food, independent to stand on, and then you create, utilize the people so that they can develop the country and improve the standard of the economy. So therefore, I reinforce Melanesian countries should not stronger ties with Asian neighbors. Thank you.
I don't want to break this. It is literally a journey across, mixing diplomacy and friendship with culture, history, and civilizational memories, located thousands of miles away in the Pacific Ocean. Kindred in the spirit, lay our Melanesian countries, ladies and gentlemen, that's right, lay our Melanesian countries. The adjudicators, fellow listeners, and debaters, a very good morning to you all. Firstly, to add to what my fellow opponents, my fellow speakers had put forward, ladies and gentlemen, it has become quite, or must I say, even more imperative for us, the Melanesians, to hold a stronger tie with Asians. Why? Yes, why? Ladies and gentlemen, to answer that question, I will have you look at the educational and training opportunities offered by the Asian neighbors. To reillustrate my point, let me take you to the Solomon Islands. According to Solomon Star, dated 20th September 2015, Japan is building new classrooms and teachers' quarters for the children and the students of Vanuatu community. This is a total funding of $598,000. And according to the Japanese ambassador, Kenichi Kimia, and I quote, he's the Japanese ambassador, Kenichi Kimia. The project aims to provide a better learning environment for the people and the students of Vanuatu community. Unquote. This, ladies and gentlemen, this is just one of the examples of the cordial relationship between the beautiful people of Solomon Islands and Japan. According to Solomon Star, dated August 2015, while being to Taiwan on a full scholarship, ladies and gentlemen. This is another example of the relationship between Taiwan and the Solomon Islands over 30 years. Solomon Islands, according to President Secretary and the Ministry of Education, Dr. Francis Roddick, and I quote, this scholarship scheme for Solomon Islands is to undertake both postgraduate and undergraduate studies in any of the institutes in Taiwan. Unquote. It started in 2004. Until now, they have been placing very high priority in training the humans. And if I contemplate more, then I will end my speech leaving you contemplating. Therefore, let's move to our host country, Vanuatu. After the devastating cyclone dam, Asian countries who stepped up to provide grants to reconstruct the schools in Vanuatu. Japan, under the Japan Fund for Poverty Reduction, has given US $5 million. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, US $5 million. And this has helped maintain and repair the schools in Vanuatu. This, dear listeners, will accelerate the social recovery in Vanuatu's cyclone-affected provinces, especially in the 5 schools in Tavia village, because it is one of the villages and the provinces that have been affected mostly by Cyclone Pep. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is extracted from Asian Development and Bank Report 2015. Further to that, China has also been providing quarters of scholarship to NEE Vanuatu students, and this again will endeavor to promote and further strengthen the relationship to benefit the both countries. Similarly, Japan, another of our Asian neighbors, under its ADB Japan program, gives scholarships to students in Fiji, Solomon Islands, Papua New Guinea, of course Vanuatu, and the other developing nations. Thus, ladies and gentlemen, it is us, the Melanesian countries. We need to move forward and take advantage of what is being offered by the Melanesian countries. To grab the opportunity, I'm telling you, to grab the opportunity and let your greatness blossom. Finally, dear audience, before I move on to my conclusion, I would like to revert to a few points. Speaker 1 had mentioned something about free education. I would like to tell you the proper sentence that was in there. We all know that there is no such thing as free lunch, and our relationship with Asian comes with just many streams. which means, ladies and gentlemen, we are helping them and they are helping us. Example, India had a transit to go to Mars and they came to Fiji and they have given also loans to Fiji. So that is one of the examples. Corruption, yes. Corruption, ladies and gentlemen, may increase. But haven't you seen, due to the law and order, I'm sorry, but people are in, the ministers are in jail. Solomon article. My opponent said Solomon article and said it is stated here. Here where? We need proper referencing, and without proper referencing, we cannot build a strong foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, these shops available here and in other Melanesian countries are in a two-way traffic. They help the economy and they benefit themselves. Furthermore, I'd like to go to my conclusion. Like every other day, not am I going to be speaking on an issue, not only will I be raising a concern, but my platform today will be speaking the dignified truth. The Melanesian countries should form strong relationship with Asian countries. And before I leave this platform for the very last time and go back to Fiji, I would like to leave you all with a quote that will make you sleep well at night. And I quote, "It is sensible to take the hand that is extended to you rather than running after those who do not even acknowledge your presence around them." Thank you.
The opposing team, respective educators, fellow listeners and audience, and the organizers of this. A very warm greeting to you all. My name is Jessie Langmilkamp, and I'll be the third speaker, summarizing our points, and also speaking more on the environmental effects of forging stronger ties, may I emphasize, stronger ties with Asian neighbors. Before so, I would like to state some rebuttal points, and mainly just to emphasize the fact that we are speaking here today on the issue of whether or not we should forge stronger ties with Asian countries. It's not an issue of whether or not we should have ties, but it's an argument of whether we should have stronger ties. We already have ties that's present, that is evident, they prove that, but whether or not we should have stronger ties present with the Asian neighbors. My opposing, the affirmative side also mentioned a few points, one of which is that they admitted that yes, there is a natural environment our natural environment is depleting. Matter of fact, the second speaker had admitted that yes, our natural environment is depleting, so on, so on, so forth. And I will elaborate and enlighten the fact that there is so much to talk more about that, and I hope by the end of this, your minds will be changed or your preconceived idea of the fact that we should agree to this. And also, it's not about being stubborn. It's not that. It's the fact that we should really consider whether we should have stronger ties with them or not. Moving forward, while people are flying across countries, have you ever thought of what is at stake here? While people, students are going across and enjoying that might be the face of it. But what's actually happening behind the scene, which is something I'd like to enlighten you on. Yes, we've established the fact that the Asian countries have established diplomatic relations, specifically China. I'll give you an example. PNG is China's largest investment. And yes, I believe the first speaker had mentioned that there's a 1.6 billion investment in the Ramu nickel mine, but she had forgotten to mention the fact that it had temporarily been closed, and the villages in August 2014 there was a report that they had stopped that temporarily closed it due to the fact that it was affecting the ocean. There was dumping of mine waste in the ocean and the seas, and also there was a dispute about the land owners, dispute with the land used for the mining. Also in PNG, there's an article in which Sam Lawson wrote about the illegal logging. I will go on to talk about how, have you realized that Papua New Guinea is the world's top 10 largest tropical rainforest? And it has over 33 million hectares of forest. It has 191 species of mammals and 750 species of birds. However, about 15% of that had been lost in the past 30 years. Now, the second speaker had mentioned that it's not just about the environment that has caused problems. It's natural disaster. He mentioned something about natural disaster being the main cause as to why we face all the problems. If we look at this, degradation of the forest leads to ozone depletion. Ozone depletion causes extreme disaster and extreme weather conditions, which is mainly what we're going through, climate change. Natural disaster is a result of the depletion of the forest, which I'm bringing forth to your attention, which is why PNG had that they had in the past had illegal loggings, and that had taken away a lot of their forest. And this is all due to what? Due to the greed of companies, owned Melanesian companies specifically, and they are responsible for these vast illegal shipments. Also, in PNG, my PNG colleagues aren't here to agree with me on that. There is this Kuyang Ambak, forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. It's a road project. Well, it was a road project, but apparently it's just a ploy for Melanesian owner logging company to access thousands of hectares of land and to take that to their countries. And this is all unlawful from the beginning, if I may add. Moreover, let's talk about New Caledonia. New Caledonia has an Asian company in which has established a nickel plant, also a nickel plant, and it is worth 6 billion, yes, but 100,000 liters of acid had ended up in the creek and killed thousands of fishes. Yes, this is the natural effect we're talking about here. It's quite large, and it's quite great, and it's quite hard to ignore. Moreover, let's talk about the foreign fishing fleets that happen. We're local countries, we love fishing, I love my fish. But imagine the local fleets going out, and then they're coming back with less fish. Why is that? Basically because the big the big Asian foreign fleets with huge, large-scale operations are buying rights to our fish in the Western and Central Pacific Oceans, and therefore just taking most of the fish, in which we don't allow room for countries like Fiji, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, Tonga, these countries to develop their own fishing industries. And the reality is not about the fishing vessels, but the fact that we're allowing so much opportunities for them to come into our country. Like I mentioned, it's not an argument of whether we should have ties. Yes, they've proven the fact that it's very good. It's great indeed, but at what cost? And also, should we have stronger ties? That's the issue at hand. I mean, we have already established economically, politically, environmentally, the fact that there's a lot of issues at hand. I believe that as a Melanesian country, like pretty much what the Melanesian Spearhead Group has emphasized, we as Melanesian countries can stand on our own 2 feet. We can uphold our own traditional values. We can have our own sense of community and self-reliance, independence. We don't necessarily have to fully depend on other countries. Because I'm worried about the fact that to what extent? To what stronger ties? What is the extent to the point that we end up like Papua, West Papua, which is something very alarming nowadays? No, so I guess I would put it out to you, to the audience and to the adjudicators. It's not a question of whether we have ties. It's a question of whether or not it is in the best interest of the Melanesian countries to forge stronger ties with the Asian countries.
Okay, thanks very much to both teams. Let's give them a round. That was a great debate. That's pretty interesting. interesting insights, and I'm very curious to see whether your minds have been changed through the course of this debate. Before we hear from the adjudicators, I know they're going to need a little bit of time to mark down their thoughts and the winner for this debate. So we might go again to our voting cards, and let's see how your minds have been shaped through the course of this debate. If you can reach down and give us a sense of whether you'd like to agree with the motion or not, and Jen's going to take some numbers again. Can I have a show of hands? Ladies and gentlemen, a dramatic turnaround, and that's what makes these debates really interesting, is to see how our ideas change through the course of them. Before the debate, when we took the vote, we had 60 people agreeing with the motion and only 11 against. Now, we have 30 people agreeing with the motion and 35 people going against the motion. So that's quite a sea change. That's the power of debate, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I think our adjudicators still need a few minutes. And so before we call on them, this is a chance for a bit of a question and answer opportunity. So if anyone has questions relating to the motion, feel free to raise your hand and I'll direct it to someone on the panel. Any questions? Yes, Sarah.
Good morning. Thank you. Interesting debate. I'd just like to ask a question in relation to Thai Asian nations and COP21. How would you use the existing ties or strengthening ties to influence our neighbours for the benefit of Pacific Island states? I thought that would have been a good point to have for both of your convictions.
Very interesting question. Thanks, Sarah. Yes, as we all know, the world is meeting in Paris this week for COP21. Very important conference looking at climate change and trying to make sure that the developing world agree to targets for their emissions. This is a crucial week for Pacific Island countries with regards to climate change. So yeah, let's see whether you guys have any thoughts on that. Fiji.
Can you rephrase the question?
I'd like to know how we could use our existing ties or strengthen ties with Asian nations such as China, Bangladesh, North Korea, that are quite large polluters. How could we use our relationships with them to negotiate better deals in terms of climate change, financing, compensation?
Let's do the Vanuatu, the chiefs do it.
I can also start with that. I think the answer is just policies and agreements. If they have policies and agreements set in place, where, for example, countries like the big developing countries would have limitations as to fishing rights, limitations as to how they their waste when it comes to their investments, just things like that. That I think when you bring it, for example, in COP21, if it's with the attention of other countries, and it's present amongst other countries. They really, really want to have a good face in front of everyone else. It's a really good platform to establish that, because there's a lot of under the carpet agreements or under the carpet things that we've done. But yeah, I think with COP21, it's a really good chance for that to be out in the open and for them to establish policies and agreements. I think that's what most of the governments are lacking with. And we need to really strengthen that, because with that set in place, then there is a consequence. Because if there's nothing set in place, then we can't do anything about it. Yeah, that's just something we do.
That's great. Thanks very much.
I'm not a law student. I'm not a law student.
All right, we might have time for one more question if there's any more, and I'll call on the adjudicators to announce their decision. Any more questions on this fascinating and contentious topic? No. Okay, I'm going to ask the adjudicators if they've nominated someone from among their team to come up. I think it's going to be the Honourable Ralph Reckons-Vanu. Okay. Come on up. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm not the Honourable, I'm Mr. I'm currently unemployed. I would like to present the adjudicators' decisions regarding the debate. And before I do that, I'd just like to say it was a fantastic debate. Some very, very good points. Very entertaining speaker. Fiji, of course, we appreciate it. And I think we all learned something. And it was, we can see from the audience reaction how the views change as a result of the arguments that were made. But at the end of the day, we have to have a winner and a loser. And we agreed that the winning team in this debate was Fiji. And we agreed that the best speaker was Jessie. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ralph. Congratulations to both teams. Let's give them a big round. And I'd like to say a special congratulations to Team Fiji, because this is their first time in the debating competition. So you did very well for your first time here. Well done. Okay, we have some goodies for our adjudicators after this, so I'd like to thank them once again for taking part in this morning's debate. Francis Herman, the Program Manager for PACMAS, Wilson Toya, the CEO of Transparency International, Mr. Ralph Reckons-Vanu, a former Minister and MP, and also Linez Tarianga, who's the legal counsel for USP. Thank you very much for the reserve dates. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to take a very quick break and then come back with the second debate, which will be the actual grand final for the Melanesian School Debating Competition. So stay tuned and we'll be with you very shortly. Thank you. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're going to proceed now with the second debate. And I'm very excited to say that it's the grand final debate for our entire competition. So if you can take your seats and switch your mobile phones to silent, we'll get underway. Now I'm going to read the motion for this debate, and then once again we're going to take a vote from the audience to see how your minds and attitudes change during the course of the debate. The topic for the grand final debate of Melanesian school competition is that Melanesia must globalize to succeed. Again, that Melanesia must globalize to succeed. Okay, we have our adjudicators in place. I'd now like to ask our two teams to come up and take their seats, please. We have Solomon Islands and Vanuatu. Come on down. One of these teams, ladies and gentlemen, will be the champion, the regional champion. All right, I'd like to start by introducing our esteemed adjudicators for this debate. We have Ms. Talita Tuipoloto from Tonga. She is the Innovation Fund Manager for PACMAS, which is the Pacific Media Assistance Fund. We have Ms. Sophia Shah from Fiji, and she's a lecturer in law at the University of South Pacific. Welcome. We have Ms. Sarah McCartney from Vanuatu. Sarah is a policy expert and long-time employee of the United Nations. And we have Ms. Christina Barre-Carre from the Solomon Islands. Christina is an education consultant with UNICEF. Welcome to our adjudicators. Okay, I'd like to introduce our two teams. We have the Solomon Islands who will be speaking in the affirmative for the motion. And I'll just introduce them. We have Patricia Wate, John Firibo, and Tanya Wickham. Give them a big hand. And we have Vanuatu, who will be speaking against the motion, with Jonathan Goyant, Kali Reganvanu, and Alicia Kausrak. Okay, just like before, we're going to take a straw poll from the audience and get a sense of what your thoughts are. So can I ask you to pick up a card? You've had a couple of minutes to think about the debate topic. Please raise your hand and let us know whether you are for or against the motion that Melanesia must globalize to succeed. Let's have a show of hands. See your hands. How are we looking, Jen? Okay, in favour of the motion, we had 52 hands, and against the motion, we had 27. So again, 52 who initially think that Melanesia must globalize to succeed, and 27 who disagree. So let's see how those votes change at the end of today's debate. Thanks, Jen. Okay, on that note, I think we'll get started, and I'd now like to call upon the first speaker for the affirmative to come and present their case. Thank you.
Mic check. Kofi Annan, the 7th Secretary General of the United Nations, once stated, and I quote, "It has been said that arguing against globalization is as arguing against the laws of gravity," unquote. The respected educators, the distinguished guests, the opposing team, ladies and gentlemen. The debated topic this morning is on Melanesia must globalize to succeed. We on the affirmative side, we strongly agree that this is indeed true, and this is the pathway to a prosperous future for our Melanesian countries. Us on the negative team, our argument will be based on some of the facts that show that through globalizing of Melanesian countries, Melanesian countries such as Vanuatu, the Solomon Islands, Papua New Guinea, and Fiji will benefit from globalization. And thus, we'll be looking at the aspects of the political, social, and cultural. We will be looking at the sustainable development and the political views. Without further ado, I, as the first speaker on the affirmative side, will be defining the topic. Thus, in doing so, I will be defining the terms of Melanesia, globalize, and to succeed. The second speaker for our affirmative side will be elaborating on the economic and sustainable development that Melanesian countries will achieve from globalization. Thus, the third speaker, she will be highlighting, concluding of all our summary of our points that we have mentioned on this argument. Without further ado, in defining the debated topic, with reference to the Cambridge Dictionary, Melanesia means each and all of the countries in the Melanesia region, which are Vanuatu, Fiji, Papua New Guinea, and the Solomon Islands. The word globalize means to make a company or a system spread or operate internationally, or in other words, globalization is the process of international integration arising from the interchange of worldviews, products, ideas, and the aspects of culture. In 2000, according to Wikipedia, the International Monetary Fund defined the 4 basics of globalization as number 1, trade and transactions, number 2, capital and investments, number 3, migrations and the movement of people, and number 4, they define it as the dissemination of knowledge. Definition of globalized has many implications for Melanesian countries, including engaging strongly in benefiting from global trade or in goods and services. Secondly, establishing strategic partnerships with selected overseas countries to ensure security. Thirdly, build and strengthen our cultural assets such as tradition and values. Now, what do we mean by succeed? To succeed in globalization of our Melanesian countries. The word succeed means to achieve something that is desirable. Thus, in relevance to the topic, that to succeed in globalization, Melanesia is to, number 1, achieve and maintain trade surpluses. Number 2, to get the best out of trade and marketing deals. And number 3, to attract and secure quality foreign investors to invest in our countries, creating jobs and business opportunities for our local people.
Moving on our team's first point, which is based on the social, cultural, and political aspect of the Melanesian countries that will benefit from globalization. Number one, socially and culturally, globalization will maintain the strong Melanesian cultures and our religious beliefs and values, and this can be achieved through building and strengthening of our own cultural assets such as traditions and values. Socially, Melanesia is a fast-growing population region in the world, and thus it requires an inward as well as an outward strategy for employment creation. Identifying overseas opportunities and developing human resources to meet overseas demands in skills and services is important for Melanesia to create more opportunity for its people and can be greatly achieved through globalization. For example, Vanuatu and Fiji, they have sent their soldiers overseas for peacekeeping missions. Number two example, Fiji rugby players contracted in Europe and Asia to play rugby. Imagine this, a young boy from the Nakalevu village in Fiji given the opportunity to achieve his dream of playing rugby in France and sending money back home to his village. These are examples of the exciting globalized reach for employment opportunities. These workers remit funds home into the local economy and into the family budgets. The second point is on the political aspects and how it will benefit from globalization. Globalization will promote and maintain peace, unity, and order in the country, and maintain strong relationships with other countries through free trade. Not only this, but through globalization, we are bringing the world to our doorsteps. And not only by going out, ladies and gentlemen, only through a globalized approach that our government and domestic firms can keep up to date with the changing technologies and practices. Thus, to conclude, ladies and gentlemen, don't you agree that globalization is inevitable for us all? This is what Melanesian countries we are heading towards it, and it's only a matter of how we deal and embrace it. Thank you for listening.
The affirmative team quotes Kofi Annan, and praises the effects that globalization may have on countries all around the world. Now, I could say I disagree, but don't take my humble student word for it. Take this quote from the Nobel Prize-winning economist. Yes, an economist. We're talking about economy here, and he states that globalization, as it is not a force for good. People should govern markets. Markets should not govern people. Globalization and its drawbacks have led us to crossroads, and it's high time we change directions. Distinguished guests, adjudicators, chairman, members of the opposing team, dear audience, a very good morning to you all. We would firstly like to thank the PIPP for organizing this debate competition. The motion for today's final is, Melanesia must globalize to succeed. My team and I find fault in this. We believe that Melanesian countries do not necessarily need to globalize in order to succeed. My name is Jonathan. I will define the key terms in the motion, introduce our team, and the points that we've come up with. I will also present our first point concerning the economic setbacks that globalization could bring to our Melanesian nations. Kali, our second speaker, will offer a rebuttal of the points given by the opposing side. We'll look into the environmental impacts that accompany globalization, and will elaborate upon the fact that globalization will be a threat to Melanesian culture and its customs. Alicia, our third and final speaker, will be the one to summarize all the points raised by our team and conclude our argumentation. Now, let us take a closer look at the key terms of our motion, which are, we feel that the affirmative team has overlooked this key term in the motion, must, globalize, and succeed. So starting with must. Must has a number of definitions, but the one that seemed the most relevant to the motion and most pertinent to us was the one stating that must describes an imperative need or duty that you are commanded to carry out. This would imply that globalization is an imperative need or duty for Melanesia. But is it really? Let us all reflect upon Melanesia's current status in different fields. Starting with the economy. We may refer to Melanesia's economy as a traditional economy. This means that our countries suffer little from global financial crises that conversely greatly affect the wealthier globalized nations. Here in Vanuatu, 80% of the population live in rural areas. In the Solomon Islands, 78% live in rural areas. In PNG, the number goes up to 87%. And finally, Fiji. Yes, Fiji still has 47% of its population living in rural areas. Ladies and gentlemen, this means that over half the population in Melanesia live in rural areas and rely on this traditional economy. The next term is globalization. The Financial Times defined this as a process by which national and regional economies, societies, and cultures have become integrated through the global network of trade, communication, immigration, and transportation. This signifies that all of those things are facilitated through the opening of international borders between countries. At first glance, one might think that it holds the answer for many of the world's needs. But we would just like to clarify that the way you phrase a sentence can have different meanings and influence any given person's opinion. What I mean by that is, opinions vary from one person to another, sometimes very drastically. It all depends on your perspective. For instance, if you look at globalization through the eyes of a money-crazed giant, trampling the forest beneath its feet, searching for ways to enrich itself at the expense of poorer countries, all the while totally disregarding their local culture and customs, then of course you'll jump on the globalization bandwagon. What could the consequences possibly be? If you're giant that is. What I'm trying to say is that globalization is located in the giant superpowers of this world, the US, Western Europe, and increasingly emerging countries like China, who are all main actors in this race to the bottom. Consider what huge economic setbacks globalization could bring to Melanesia. One of them is free trade. It's supposed to eliminate unfair barriers to global commerce and raise the economy in both developed and developing countries. But does it really do so? Maybe for rich countries, just maybe, but not for us. Let us instead consider fair trade. When we open up markets without regulations, our own key industries and businesses may suffer. For example, sugarcane, copra, or garment industries. Our livelihoods will suffer at the profit of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Also, this lack of regulation leads to substandard working conditions and low pay. People, this happens when you cut costs at the expense of human rights. The recent Trans-Pacific Trade Agreement and Pay Surplus are supposed to offer an opportunity to help Pacific countries from countries benefit from enhanced regional trade and economic integration. But do they do this for Melanesia? They encourage competitiveness, yes, but do not create a level playing field for the countries that are involved. These economic policies can also lead to labor migration. When there are fewer employment opportunities at home, people will move away in search of jobs. This decreases the labor force and can also lead to a brain drain of our young, educated, and talented people. The third and final term that I will define is success. Once again, success can be defined in many ways, but success cannot be measured. You cannot rate success in any way, shape, or form. This term is defined by the Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary as the correct or desired result of an attempt. Now see, we disagree. Others might say that success is the absence of failure. Again, we disagree. Today, my team and I want to win. If we lose, will we have failed? I don't know yet, because success is a feeling. Success is the love that you see in your family and friends' eyes. Success Success is the love that you see in your family and friends' eyes, and the love that you give back. Success is the smile on your lips as you shrug off the defeat. Success, my dear friends, is anything you want it to be, and is discarding Melanesian ways, customs, and tradition the path to success. Do you think that in the future, you'll be able to buy success at the next KFC or Adidas store that will open in town? Do you really want to sacrifice your Melanesian identity just for the sake of globalization? To conclude, my team and I believe that Melanesia must not resort to globalization. But ladies and gentlemen, what do you think? Do you wish to preserve the identity of your beloved Melanesia? Or do you want to be just another random face on the ever-expanding international body of this globalized world?
Ladies and gentlemen, there's a saying that goes, act locally, think globally. Honored educators, timekeeper, members of the opposition, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all. Before proceeding to my line of argument, I would like to reaffirm our team's main line that Melanesia needs to globalize in order to succeed, and that the future of Melanesia is totally dependent on globalization. Before I proceed on, I would like to rebut on a point stated by Jonathan here. He said that globalization can lead to the loss of cultural heritage. Well, the loss of cultural heritage is not the fault of globalization. It's the fault of us, the people who make the choices. We do. And who are we to blame if there were loss of culture? We are, not globalization. Need I remind you, globalization is a policy, it's not related to humans, and it's the thing that humans do. It's not the culture, it's not the identity. It's going out, not coming in. The other point is stated that there are allegations, the economic allegations, like you said, allegations made by critics of globalization are very much in dispute. That globalization leads to growing income inequality or harm to the environment, while there are some countries which economic integration has led to increased inequality, there is no worldwide trend, according to the World Trade Organization. There is no worldwide trend as proof that there is inequality between these countries, and I assure you of that. Evidence have shown that all countries of the world are interconnected, either through dialogue, the internet, or foreign diplomacy. All these are obvious signs of globalization. Don't you see that? If to globalize means to interact with other countries or systems and expand trade links for the country's benefit, then it is most certainly a must-do activity for Melanesian countries, as failure to do so result in being termed as backward or merely being too conservative. I will be arguing mainly on the positive economic impact globalization would have on our Melanesian society. If we ever consider globalization at a large scale, and that globalization leads to successful sustainable management and development of our natural resources. To begin with, our economies rely heavily on trade in goods and services. So it is important to engage effectively with the global trading arrangements. The dramatic growth in cross-border investments and international trade over the past few decades, combined with the explosive growth in global communications and technology, is what most people think of when they think of globalization. In order to boost our meager and rather slim economies, we should engage in the fierce battle of international trade, which are currently underway at small scale in our Melanesian countries, and gain ourselves potential markets at which to sell our products. And need I remind you, globalization is occurring now in Melanesia. For instance, foreign direct investment flows, FDIs, which totaled 160 billion in 1991, soared up to 1.1 trillion in 2000, and while the volume of international trade also expanded dramatically, 16-fold over a period of 50 years. Trade in components has grown even faster than trade in finished goods. Components now make up about a third of the world's export of manufactured goods, as firms increasingly outsource the parts they use to produce at home to subsidiaries of firms overseas. So, my friends, only through a globalized approach can our governments and companies keep up to date with changing technology and practices. More and more global companies are outsourcing production of goods and services that can provide opportunities for companies in Melanesia, which will result in more job creation. Take, for instance, in East Asia, the spectacular growth which increased GDP per capita by 8-fold and raised millions of people out of poverty was based largely on globalization, according to the International Monetary Fund. Generally, economies that globalize have higher growth rates than non-globalizers. On the other hand, bringing the world to our doorstep is a fact that must be considered, as not only do we go out into the world, but to prove to the world that we are worthy of investment and cooperation within our own territory. For example, Fiji and Vanuatu are showing us examples of effective tourism strategies at work in attracting the world to visit their countries, which is a form of sustainable development. Another instance is that Fiji is expanding its manufacturing industry to produce and export garments and furniture products. Secondly, globalization can lead to sustainable development, as not all foreign investors are interested in exploiting our resources. Technically, success in globalization only comes when we globalize at a sustainable level, have quality human resource that can contribute effectively to communities, nation building, and must be marketable and employable in overseas countries. To keep up with modern technology and to use it to benefit our economy and people. Build and strengthen our own cultural asset so that we prepare to face the world while keeping our values and traditions at heart. To conclude, I firmly believe, ladies and gentlemen, that Melanesia must globalize in order to be successful in its endeavors as a region to be recognized all over the world. Think about that. Thank you.
Good morning to the audience, adjudicators, and fellow debaters. Firstly, I'd like to rebut a couple of the points you guys mentioned. So the second speaker stated that the standard of living would be increased and that people would be raised out of poverty. Well, people said the same thing about India, but the CNN actually states that less than 5% earn enough to pay taxes, and less than 10% of the people have salary jobs. Only 3.5% of students graduate, and 35.7% of the population cannot read or write, so I think that's incorrect. The first speaker also stated that governments work together better. I'd like to mention that governments in Melanesia may actually end up becoming enemies and competing against each other for when they are globalizing and trying to sell things to different countries. So that will jeopardize their relationships. And to succeed in the globalized world means, in the developed world means economy-wise is what your first speaker defined it as. But me and my team choose to disagree because the topic does not state in the developed world or success economy-wise. It states success, therefore success is relative. It's not just talking about money. Allow me to tell you a story. A woman in the market aims to sell 2 island dresses by the end of the day, but by that time she actually ends up selling 5 dresses. She is overjoyed and in her own eyes, she is successful. However, to a business person in the USA, this would be seen as anything but a success. People of Melanesia, as our first speaker mentioned, success is relative. Success cannot be justifiably measured in one single way. We can only measure success based on how richer countries define it, which is essentially that success equals large sums of money. That's incorrect. Success means achieving goals that you have set for yourself. Success can also mean achieving a personal goal of happiness, which don't require things like phones or TV that globalization brings, but instead can be accomplished by less material things in life, such as dancing, singing, laughing, and spending time with family and friends. Melanesia, we cannot limit ourselves in our thinking. My next point brings us to the harsh reality we have to face if we plan to globalize, the clear evidence of consequences on the environment. If we choose to globalize in order to succeed, we are choosing to ignore the fact that there are huge repercussions to the environment. Think about this. Who are the biggest contributors to global warming and pollution in this day and age? Globalized countries. We must be careful of Melanesia because remember, nature does not need us. We need nature in order to survive. So ponder this question. Do you genuinely think this is a success? Because I don't think so. Take for example, Nauru, the beautiful country that was once filled with resources of phosphate is now a dirty wasteland where 80% of it is uninhabitable. However, Melanesia, let's shift to a happier topic. Us. Vanuatu has been at the top of the ladder in terms of happiness globally before. Doesn't this provide enough evidence that we do not need to globalize in order to succeed? That really is the beauty of our Melanesian countries, that we can succeed on so many different levels other than globalizing. For example, achieving happiness through laughter with family, earning respect from an elder, and learning to speak your own language are all ways of succeeding without globalizing. My next point leads us back to our roots here in Melanesia. Melanesian culture is extremely unique. For example, in PNG alone, which is the small size of the state of California, houses 820 indigenous languages. People, that is 11% of all the languages in the entire world. Not to mention that Vanuatu is considered to be the country with the highest language density per capita in the world. Now, think audience. All of these languages, each one unique to the particular area, and lost and forgotten from the seemingly innocent act of globalization. Is people become more interested in newer, more seemingly interesting things instead of learning their tradition and language. These new things are great, but we shouldn't sacrifice such a deep and sacred culture for them. It is not worth it, Melanesia. Open your eyes. In 30 years, do you want your children to know nothing about their roots? To think that something so special is not as important as a, say, music video? How is this a success? I don't see it. Often with globalization, cultures begin to blend into one and lose their uniqueness. The contours that originally made, say, PNG's culture differ from American culture begin to fade and break away. Eventually, cultures begin to mix into something different than diversity, and they all become the same. Globalization also brings with it alternatives to traditional food. Take, for example, a regular meal in the market here in Vanuatu. A freshly caught fish on top of manioc and greens complete with fresh coconut water. A healthy lunch that supports local people. Instead, globalization brings things like Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and Twisties. Unhealthy foods with little to no nutritional intake that support the richer, bigger countries and knock the locals out of business. Remember, Melanesia, the grass always looks greener on the other side. In this case, a globalized city such as Port Vila may seem very attractive to somebody out in the islands. New jobs, education, and health opportunities. So they move here, and when they get here, what do they find? They find out that they are paid low wages in bad conditions to serve the rich countries who have essentially played them. Education and health? No way they'd be able to afford that with their salaries. So people, wake up! Now my team and I don't think globalized culture is only a negative, no. On the contrary, we simply believe it would be such a substantial loss to forget something as important as our Melanesian culture. In conclusion, we firmly believe that seeing globalization as a necessity for success is not only incorrect, but it is so limiting. We must open our minds. We must open our eyes to the things that lie directly in front of us, the things we may take for granted, family, friends, laughter, and see the success that lies within them. Napoleon Hill says, the starting point of all achievement is desire, and we agree. We must finally open up avenues to achieve our individual desires in order to succeed. Thank you.
Barack Obama once said, "Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change we seek." Distinguished judges, honored guests, fellow contestants, ladies and gentlemen, we live in a globalized economic system we cannot avoid, and so we must manage change if we are to succeed. The opposition has highlighted the negative impacts and failures of globalization. However, keep in mind that Melanesia can only achieve success if we can make the most of the good opportunities globalization can offer and guard ourselves against its disadvantages. We, the Affirmative team, therefore firmly believe that Melanesia must globalize to succeed. As our first and second speakers have discussed, globalization is not just economic or monetary terms. It can help Melanesia achieve success in social and cultural areas, the political areas, in trade and economics, and lastly, in sustainable development in the environments of Melanesia. To achieve success in social and cultural aspects, we must aim to maintain strong Melanesian cultures and our religious beliefs and values, and to keep up with modern technology and use it to benefit our economy and people. In terms of culture, let us consider one of the major components of globalization, which is the internet. Imagine being able to document and digitize all our cultural knowledge and values for our future generations to see through the press of a button, instead of relying on oral knowledge. Not only would we be preserving our culture, but we would simultaneously be integrating it into the global network for everyone to appreciate. In terms of social aspects, we could use globalization as a tool to help the government and companies keep up to date with changing technologies and practices. We can also use globalization to address the problem of employment creation for Melanesia's rapidly increasing population. For example, according to the Fiji Times Online, dated September 12, 2015, remittances kept the economy going during the low years from 2007 to 2010. Official estimates record remittances at 300 million per year in Fiji, which is the second largest source of foreign income, where it is second to tourism, another aspect of globalization, with receipts of 875.2 million. This is an excellent example of globalization. Globalization can also help Melanesia in achieving successful political stability and well-being. According to the International Monetary Fund, the IMF has included transparency and anti-corruption as measures as part of the conditions for countries to borrow its funds. While the IMF is put in charge of minimizing the risks associated with globalization and the likelihood of currency crisis, corruption may make a country more vulnerable to the risks of a currency crisis. Therefore, lending support to anti-corruption efforts in the developing countries is very much consistent with the central mission of the IMF. This is an example of how globalization can encourage countries to be more transparent and less corrupt and therefore succeed in political stability. Trade and economics is the most significant of all areas of success. In Papua New Guinea, according to the Australian government website, Australia has given $450.6 million worth of aid to PNG during 2014-15, with the assurance that their aid program will deliver assistance that supports economic growth and equitable development in PNG. This indicates successful economic growth within Melanesia due to globalization. Melanesia can also succeed in sustainable development by achieving national sustainable development targets and Millennium Development Goal targets. Globalization can help aid these goals through international trade and foreign direct investments that can provide less industrial countries with the incentive to adopt and the access to new technologies that may be more ecologically sound, according to a World Bank briefing reporting paper. Transnational corporations may also help the environment by exporting higher standards and best practices to less industrial countries. This shows that globalization can help achieve sustainable development by influencing developing countries to adopt safe and sound practices and measures. Before I conclude, I would like to rebut on the opposing team's points. As the first speaker has mentioned, a good example of a country who has there's loss of culture that through globalization. However, a good example of a country who has globalized but has adopted safety measures against exploitation is Vanuatu. Vanuatu has been able to reaffirm local identity and custom whilst pursuing economic and political globalization in ways that have so far eluded its Melanesian brothers. This goes to show the preservation of culture and successful globalization. Also, the first speaker mentioned that living in rural areas, we rely on the traditional economy. How do you wish for us to continue to succeed if we continue to isolate ourselves? How is that success? By seeing a smile on someone's face, you mentioned, I'm sorry, we are not debating on the success of Melanesia, we are debating on the success of Melanesia as a whole and not just individuals. The first speaker also mentioned how globalization would be attractive and beneficial to money-crazed people or countries. However, evidence contradicts these generalizations. Real wages have risen in the countries that are attracting FDI. Corporate tax revenues have actually been rising and not falling. The local presence of internationally active companies creates strong pressures to raise local standards rapidly in the key areas of management, technology, and environment quality, according to the former director of the World Trade Organization. Given the fact that Melanesia is already globalizing, are there any indicators showing that Melanesia is failing in any aspects that are directly related to globalization? Also, the second speaker mentioned that globalization will jeopardize relationships, and that is an assumption. Globalization is occurring now. Competition is occurring now, yet I see no jeopardization of any relationships within a country and only integrated relationships through globalization. Ladies and gentlemen, globalization is inevitable. It is already happening, and it is the way of the future. Like it or not, Melanesia has to and is already globalizing. Who in this room is not benefiting from globalization? Our government salaries are paid for by the revenue that the private sector earns through their interactions with the global economy. Who in this room is not exposed to its potential ills? Instead of focusing on the negative effects of globalization, we should learn how to overcome them and utilize all the potential benefits that globalization has in store for us in order to have a successful and prosperous Melanesia, not a happy family, Melanesia. If we stay positive, inclusive, and democratic, we have a truly historic opportunity to succeed.
Morning, everyone. Before I begin with my summary of our arguments, I would first like to rebut the entire Affirmative team's arguments. So, the first speaker, stated a metaphor that arguing against globalization would be like going against gravity. Well, human beings have managed to make planes fly and balloons go up. Sure, it takes a bit of effort, but why not? I mean, it's worth a try, right? And your second speaker was so kind to remind us that globalization is here in Melanesia. We know that. We're not debating on whether or not globalization is here. We're debating whether or not globalization is our only option to succeed. That's for a metaphor. The second speaker mentioned a metaphor about how we can think globally but live locally. That is just semantics. It is highly unlikely that someone who has a highly developed, highly educated mind would be satisfied living like an uneducated local in the islands. That is not reality. Your second speaker also mentioned that globalization is a choice. We fully agree, globalization is a choice. And then your third speaker mentioned that the internet can be used to document our culture and our history for our future generations. My good audience, I ask you, you have a grandchild and you put a laptop computer in front of them. Two laptops. On one laptop, you have a document about Melanesia's culture and history. On the other, you have a video game or a DVD. Which do you think your grandchild would want to watch? Which choice would they make? Now, your third speaker also mentioned something. Okay, firstly, all of you mentioned that globalization is here. We agree. And then your third speaker mentioned that if globalization comes, corruption will decrease. Corruption is here, globalization is here. So what does that tell us? Now to reaffirm our arguments. Firstly, there is evidence to suggest that globalization negatively impacts one's economy. A clear example is what happened in Jamaica. Now bear in mind, I know that Jamaica isn't a Melanesian country, but it is a developing island nation, much like our nations here in Melanesia. In the 80s, Jamaica's milk production was on a strong upward climb, providing 25% of the nation's consumption. But then in 1992, they decided to globalize their economy. And you know what happened a year later? Their milk production dropped by 60%. Dairy farmers had to close down, and you can only imagine what that did to their economy and their unemployment rates. How can we guarantee that what happened to them won't happen to us? Melanesia, we cannot guarantee that. Ladies and gentlemen, these big companies or corporations might seem like attractive alternatives to our local community, but the bitter truth is that most of the time they don't care at all about our local economy. All they care about is expanding their financial borders, not ours. So why should globalization be our only option? Our second point was how globalization negatively impacts culture. My fellow Melanesians, we must remember that globalization began in the West, and therefore it is the Western ideas, values, and lifestyles that will be promoted if we choose to globalize, not ours. We agree that yes, the cultures will be integrated, but research has proven that the Western culture will become the dominant culture. It will replace all others. Now, our team isn't implying that Western culture is evil or that we hate Western culture. I love Facebook, we love skinny jeans. We're just saying that if our region fully globalizes, our indigenous languages, our custom dances, our traditional ways of life stand at a risk of disappearing completely. And if there is something we Melanesians do not want to lose, it is our culture, because our culture is our identity, our Melanesian identity. So why, I ask you, why would you trade in something that makes us Melanesians unique for something that will pretty much make us the same as millions of people worldwide? What, in the name of success? What success? Money? Do we really think that money can replace cultural identity? Now, so far we have seen that Melanesia must not globalize because it will only bring negative impact economically and culturally speaking. Not only will globalization affect our economies and cultures, but also our ecosystems and our environments. I'm just asking you, what does the World Trade Organization know about our environment? Oh, I mean, come on, let's not invest in Melanesia because they have beautiful environments. We might ruin that. Have they ever done that? No. Now, while we agree greater competition will result in lower prices, but this has a downside. With more households gaining access to consumer goods, there is more manufacturing. This puts a strain on the environment in terms of depletion of resources. Just look at all the rubbish we are dumping every day. Before, the food we ate was biodegradable. We drank natural juice and our bags were made of leaf. None of those harmed the environment. They just decomposed. But now, we eat colorful crisps that come in shiny, non-biodegradable packages. We drink Coke that comes in aluminum cans, but hey, it's red, right? And we use plastic bags that take centuries to decompose. My dear people, globalization will gradually change our way of living. We believe that is not for the best. We cannot call it success. What is successful about destroying our land and our health at the same time? Now, our second speaker mentioned Nauru. Yes, when the mining industry got nationalized, Nauru was in 1970 named the most wealthiest country in the world. Happy, happy, happy. But then in 1990, their phosphate resources were completely exhausted. And now 80% of Nauru is inhabitable. People cannot live there. People cannot survive there. Nauruans have to import drinking water. Do we want that to happen to Melanesia? No, we do not want that. Climate change, climate states, and I quote, "Today Nauru is a man-made hell, at the tail of the absurdity of globalization." My fellow Melanesians, if our region globalizes, we, like Nauru, will be living a lifestyle of overconsumption, and facing the risk of an environmental collapse. And this will be another man-made disaster in the name of globalization. I am sorry. No, thank you very much. We should be skipping our turn on that one. We want to keep our land, to conclude, we want to keep our lands clean and beautiful. We want to keep our people healthy and happy. We want to keep our many languages and cultures diverse and active. We want to keep Melanesia the way Melanesia should be, according to our standards of success. And I'm sorry, but success that is relative. So success does mean happiness. I mean, come on. Sorry, the people in Melanesia, they're all unhappy, but that doesn't matter. They're rich. No. Let me end with a quote by the Nobel Peace Prize winning South African President Nelson Mandela. Where globalization means, as it so often does, that the rich and powerful now have new means to empower themselves at the cost of the poorer and weaker. We have a responsibility to protest in the name of universal freedom. My fellow Melanesians, globalization is not the only way to succeed, and Melanesians do not have to globalize to succeed. Thank you.
All right, what a terrific debate. Let's give them both a big round of applause. Lots of passion and eloquence and hard research has gone into today's debate, and we can see the results there today. As I said earlier, I have no doubt I'm looking at future leaders of our region. Who will be great talent. Okay, while we wait for our adjudicators to come up with a decision, which I know is going to be extremely hard, we're going to go back and take another audience vote to see whether your minds have been changed through the course of this debate. It's going to be another big job for Jen. Could you please let us know your thoughts according to your cards? How we're looking. Let's have a show of hands. Yes and no. That's it. Keep those hands aloft. It's still counting. This is a manual process. Okay, once again, ladies and gentlemen, we have a sea change in our thoughts and opinions through the course of this debate. So once again, it highlights the power of eloquence and how arguing your points can bring up new ideas and really work to change our perception of things. Our first vote, we had 52 votes in favour of the motion and 27 against. This time, we have 23 in favour of the motion and 56 against. It's a pretty considerable sea change. So yeah, well done to both sides for helping to change our minds. Okay, while we're still waiting for our adjudicators, I think we've got time to throw a couple of questions out to the audience and see whether there are any points or questions that the audience would like to ask our panel. Yes, hello.
I just have one question. You mentioned that globalization is not the only option for Melanesia to succeed. So my question is, what do you think or suggest are the options that Melanesia should adopt in order to succeed politically, economically, socially?
Yeah, I'm sorry, that was actually part of my speech, but I didn't have time, so I kind of, left it. But yeah, our team firmly believes that, globalization is not the only way to succeed, and we believe that Melanesian countries could choose from 3 other options, and these options are self-reliance, sustainability, and fair trade within the region. So we believe that we do not have to rely on other more developed nations to succeed. We can first rely on ourselves, help each other to succeed, and then
Would you guys like to answer that, or you think it was well covered by
We didn't want to touch on whether it was the only way to achieve success, because that wasn't the topic. It was didn't say that globalization is the only way to achieve success. It's just a necessity. There's other aspects as well, but it's not part of the topic.
Isn't trade part of globalization?
Trade within our Melanesian countries.
well, yeah, it is. But then again, right now we are currently trading with international countries, and we're not fully globalized. So,
but it is part of globalization.
well, yeah, and that's what we said. That we agree. We are. We already stated. Yeah. We already stated that we're not saying globalization is here. We know globalization is here, but must we globalize to succeed?
Already.
All right, we can see another question here.
Culturally, I would look at Japan as one of the countries in the world the number one country that globalized and on technology, and then culturally they are one of the developed country in the world that still maintain their cultures and traditions. So, would you think that the people of
Okay, we might have time for one more question from the audience. Yes.
All right, so I understand that we're debating mainly about our cultures. And this question, I mean, not mainly about our cultures, but you've mentioned cultures like we're going to lose our cultures if we globalize. So I'm asking to Solomon Islands, because you said that if we lose our cultures, that's our fault, the people's fault. But do you really think that it's the fault of the people, the Melanesians? Is it really their fault if they lose the cultures or not? Does it have anything to do with globalization? Will globalization make them change their way of thinking? Because you said it will not change their way of thinking. And then my other question is, are you willing to see other countries make money if we globalize? Are you willing to see globalized countries make money from our cultures? Because this is already happening. For example, in Vanuatu, people have copied the land diving and the swing ban, and they're using it in globalized countries to make money. And that is on the internet as well. You can see it on the internet. So are you willing to see our cultures, if we globalize, are you willing to see globalized countries make money from our cultures as well?
We might just have time for that last question. So would one of you like to have a go?
So through the other countries making money off our culture, isn't it good to like advertise our culture? They're like making money off our culture. People are gonna ask whose idea was that originally. People are gonna find out that it was actually from our countries. It will attract tourism as well. They're gonna come to our countries, and that's how we're gonna benefit. Also, through the loss of culture, it's not through globalization that we're gonna lose culture. It's our own choice. If we choose to retain our culture, it's not globalization that's gonna affect our memory. We choose whether to retain culture within our own mind. We're not robots. Globalization isn't going to change how we think. We decide whether to be affected by globalization or not. If we want to retain our culture, that's our choice. That's not what globalization will do to us. That's what we choose to do according to the benefits that globalization is providing to us. Thank you.
Very quick chance for Team Vanuatu to respond to that question.
Just about the other countries making money off of us, you say that it'll kind of show our culture to other nations and they'll be interested in it. Well, take for example bungee jumping, which is actually taken from land diving here in Vanuatu. Do you really think when people go bungee jumping in other countries that they think, oh wow, this came from Vanuatu? No, they just think that they're flying through the air. They don't care about whether it's from Vanuatu, and they don't think about that. So.
Great, thanks, Team Vanuatu. All right, I think our adjudicators have wrapped up their findings and are ready to present. I'd now like to ask Talita to come on up and announce the adjudicator's decision. Thanks.
Okay, just to start off, I can ask the whole room to please give both teams a big round. And apparently I'm the neutral party in today's adjudicating panel, which is why I'm up here on their behalf, so thank you, ladies. Just before I make our announcement, if you can just indulge me for a while. Once upon a time, there were two farmers who didn't get along with each other. In between their farms, there was a wide ravine. And to keep each other out, they constructed a fence. In time, though, the daughter of one fell in love with the son of the other. Determined not to be kept apart, they tore down the fence and used the wood to build a bridge between the two farms. When I look at this table, I don't see Tanya. I see the nation of the Solomon Islands. When I look at this table, I don't see Kali. I see a future leader of Vanuatu. So despite who walks away as the winner today, know that you have done Vanuatu and Solomon Islands proud. And in saying that, I would like to congratulate the teams, the teachers, your supporters, your parents that have worked very hard in helping you with your research and just preparing you for today's debate. And it was very difficult for all of us to decide on who today's winner is. But the truth is, there can only be one winner, and the winner is the Vanuatu team. We have also a tough decision deciding on the best speaker, but today's best speaker goes to Jonathan. Just behalf of myself and our panel today, thank you so much to Pip and the entire team for putting this together, and all the very best to all participating debating teams for today. We know Melanesia is in good hands with our future leaders, so congratulations again.
Congratulations. This is the Melanesian School Debating Competition, but it is our fervent hope that we'll be able to expand this competition right across the Pacific, and that may well include Polynesia and Micronesia one day. So stay tuned over the next few years where we want to grow and expand this competition into something that's Pacific-wide so that we can help build confidence and critical thinking for students right across the Pacific Islands. Okay, I'd like to now ask Vani Nades to come on up. Vani is the director of M-Straight, which is a training and consultancy company in Papua New Guinea. Last year, Vani was director for business studies in PNG, and they worked with us at the Pacific Institute of Public Policy to develop this competition. Vani has brought with her the Melanesian Shield, which Papua New Guinea won last year, and now she's going to give it to our new regional champions, Team Vanuatu.
Wait, man.
Great effort, Vanuatu. And congratulations to the Solomon Islands. Okay, we might ask Team Fiji to come up as well, because they were a really important part of this debate. It's their first debating experience, and I think we should acknowledge them as well. So Team Fiji would like to come up, and then I'll ask all three teams to stand together and shake hands, and look forward to seeing each other in next year's competition perhaps. Okay. Okay, while they're shaking hands and congratulating each other, I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors for the debate. We've had support from a number of local groups, and in particular the Vanuatu Ministry of Education and Training. We also have a couple of awards that have been sponsored, and they include the most improved team. These awards are being presented by the Vanuatu Copper and Cocoa Exporters Association. That's A few other people to thank for today's activities. I'd like to acknowledge my team at the Pacific Institute of Public Policy, who worked very hard to put these events together. So that's Jen Botel, Linda Kenny, Frida Barney, Ellen Vitterau, Derek Bryan, and our timekeeper, Carol Alley. Thanks very much for that. And finally, thanks to the teachers, parents, and friends who worked very hard to prepare all our teams for this week's debate. A lot of the credit rests with you guys to create such potent teams and to help develop their potential as leaders for our region. So thanks again to the teachers, parents, and friends of our debating teams. Okay, and just a quick note to say that there'll be a farewell celebration this afternoon at Melee Cascades at 3 o'clock. And then we'll be heading on to the beach bar for a fire show from about 5:30 onwards. Anyone from the audience is welcome to attend. So we're going to take the teams out there to the Cascades and then to the beach bar. So feel free to come along. Before I sum up for the rest of the day, I'd like to ask Vani to come back up again. I think she was going to acknowledge a few other people and present some further awards. And then we have Jen Hotel, who's going to present some certificates to our winning teams today. And the runners up. Do you want to say something?
First of all, thank you very much, and we're happy to be here. I mean, it's said that TCG is not here due to situations beyond our control, and I only hope that we were here as well to also be part of the debating team as well. I think PNG started this debate in 2009, 7 years ago. So we're thinking of how we can take it to involve our Melanesian brothers and sister countries. And that's when we started, I started my trip to Solomon Islands first, and then we started discussing with PIPP, and that's when we started the first Melanesian debate in PNG, which we hosted last year, which our team PNG was the first championship of this debate. This is the second debate, and we'd like to congratulate PIPP and of course the Ministry of Education here in Vanuatu to putting their hands together to continue this, because we looked at a avenue, there's no voices that we could give for young people to talk, and debate is one of these initiatives that we took up for them to give their voices through issues that we're facing in our own countries. And that has grown over the years in PNG, throughout PNG, and also now Melanesia. And thank you congratulations to the participating team, Solomon Islands, Team Vanuatu, and of course, thank you to our new inclusion, Fiji. And I'm sure, like our chairperson said here, we're going to grow it, and we are determined to grow it. And who knows, we might go into the World Debate Championship as well, which we are also members. That's a good initiative, and I love this. I love working with the young people because we saw a lot of talent, a lot of potential, and through these debate topics, we learn a lot. And through that, leaders always come and sit down and listen to the kids because they want to make good decisions so that it can benefit the whole entire country that we live in. Of course, we should be proud of Melanesia. I was going to say but we have to be patriotic of our own country. And it's amazing. We have a whole lot of talent. And thank you to everybody for sharing this vision to empower these young leaders of our nation. And that's our theme for Papua New Guinea, developing our leaders for our nation. So congratulations. You can be a rival on stage, but when you get out, we're friends. So let's do this family together.
Let's unite and let's work together to make this a new other agent of change for today. So what you discuss today, make sure you action it. So it's not about debating, but you must also be passionate about it. So thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here together with my husband, Harun. So we look forward, the team PNG will still continue next year, but we apologize for this year. But next year, definitely we're coming back. So thank you. Solomon and Vanuatu, thank you.
Okay, it's forward to me to announce the most improved. And the most improved goes to William Natiko from Vanuatu. Congratulations, William. Okay, the People's Choice Award. This is always a popular one. People's Choice Award goes to Patrick Lau from India. Well done, Patrick. Okay, and finally, the award for the best overall speaker goes to Tanya Wickham. We have something coming for you. Okay, we have a few other trophies and awards to give, but I think it might be time to step down off the platform. We might move over here and then we can present them to you. All right, while we're doing that, I'll just do a final thank you to our sponsors, parents, friends, our teams, to PIP, to the BNPF, and also to the government of the Chief Information Officer, who's been very critical in helping us get this program live streamed today. All right, thanks very much, everyone. We're going to leave it now and look forward to seeing you all again next year. Thanks very much.
All right, we're just going to give our last few things. So for each team, we have a few things from Vanuatu that we'd like to show them, and we've also got our trophies for the runners-up and the winners. We have certificates for teachers, for those that helped us in the All Stars debate, and we also have some T-shirts for the USP students that helped us this morning. So we'll distribute those, but for now, I think we just want to have each of the teams come up one at a time. I don't have the list of all the names, but we might get Fiji to come first. Fiji, would you guys like to come back up, or we can present you with some thank you things? Teachers as well, please. Everyone. All right, I'm just waiting for those ladies in the back. Hurry up, Linda. Sorry.
Linda.
Ale, come on. Okay, so sorry, we don't have a list of everyone's names, but we'd just like to say, well done, Fiji. We're so happy to have you here this year. So we have Mr. Stuart Fantastic. Sorry how I pronounced that. Thank you. We have Shalal. Shalia. We have Anushka. Miss Vanuatu. Yeah. Italy. And finally we have Patrick. And I where's one for principal? Oh, sorry. I have to make one up for the principal. So they'd love to thank Fiji for coming, and we look forward to seeing them again next year. Okay, next is our runners up. Ms. Solomon. Can we have Team Solomon come up, please? And maybe someone help me with the trophies and have the names. Derek, would you like to present the trophies? Runners up, yes, Solomon Islands, please come on up. Okay, Solomon, come up, please. Well done, Okay, one last big round of applause for Solomon. Maybe even be in the Solomons. We'll see. All right, thank you guys. And lucky last, let's get Team Vanuatu back up one last time.
And the teachers who helped the team Vanuatu, they put so much hard work in. David and Veronique, both of you can come. It's Anne Phillips, I think she's left already. Big thanks to our teachers, they put so much hard work in. Well, there's me now with a nice little plan. Fantastic work, Jonathan. And tributes for all. Okay, one last big round of applause for Team
Yeah, have you ever followed us? Oh.
I was calling
Oh yeah, I could, sorry, I couldn't. Okay, I mentioned that. I mentioned that.
Yeah.